All right, we will start the Records Commission meeting, 10:04. Call to order, please.
Mrs. Dillon,
Here.
Mr. Burchett,
Here.
Mrs. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Here. The first item that we have is approval of the minutes. The Records Commission meeting minutes are from August 18th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Dillon,
Yes.
Mr. Burchett.
that. Yes.
All right, under item 3 is business. Our first is the review and approval of RC1 form submitted by the Law Department.
And is that something you have to speak to? or
I
Kim?
can just briefly, I know, I believe Mrs. Wallace was able to, or did locate these very old files from 1970 to 1989, and she was kind enough to attach a list to that RC1 of what is timed out for destruction, so we'd ask for approval of this so that we can go ahead and destroy these records. Kim, did you have anything else you want? Okay. One in a row. So I would make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Mrs. Dillon,
Yes.
Mr. Burchett,
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes. Next item is review and approval of RC2 form, the Finance Department.
Yes, most of the changes are related to the fact that we're trying to go from paper to electronic, so we're kind of in transition, so there are a lot of changes related to adding the electronic reference. However, I'll just go through them briefly. We changed the wording slightly from until no longer of admin value, just to until electronically scanned for the majority of the paper items listed. So that's on page 2. That's what all of those changes are, except when you get down to FIN 6. These 6A, 6A, 7, 7A were previously blank. And then we had 13 through 14A that we were using, so we just renumbered 13 to 14A is now FIN 6 through FIN 7A. Page 3 is more of the changing of the wording on the electronic reference for the paper media type. When you get to page 4, we have some records that are being removed for our accounts receivable records because they are now generated in our software system and then stored there electronically once they're generated. So we do not print any paper for those items. That's for AR2A. For AR3 and 3A, those are going away completely because we don't use them anymore. And then just kind of moving forward to the next item of significance would be on page 7 for the budget 16. We just changed the wording from sale donation to disposal because there are some assets that are transferred. So I just wanted to use the wording disposal to cover all methods of disposal. On the BUD 18, that number was previously blank, and we noticed that we didn't have any references to our travel expense records on the retention, so we added that item there in that slot. For budget 20 and 20A, they were previously, the description was just deeds, and we wanted to be more specific on one, just being property deeds in general, and updating the wording to say until sold or donated property. And then on budget 20A, we just changed it to transfer deeds and updated the retention period accordingly. Budget 23 and 23A were added. We didn't have anything for RFPs, RFQs listed on here, so we wanted to add those, both in the electronic and paper version, and use the number of years recommended by the Historical Society. For payroll documents, one, just for consistency purposes, for all of the different documents, we had the electronic type listed first and the paper, and we got to payroll and it was opposite, so I just wanted it consistent, so we reordered the electronic versus paper reference. And most of the payroll records, other than what's generated in VIP and automatically stored electronically, we still have a lot of paper records, so we haven't gotten as far with the transition to electronic there. So for his records, we did add on the paper the clarification of the number of years, because by the time we get around to getting them all scanned in, they may be ready for destruction and not have to be scanned in. So I just wanted that distinction on there. Kind of the same there. On page 11, pay 18 and 18A, W-2s were being referred to as reports, they're forms, so we just changed the wording. And again, reordered the electronic versus paper order and made sure the number of years were referenced on the paper. And we get to the tax section. We don't have paper 1099G forms, they're all electronic, so we removed the paper. And then the electronic one became number 1 instead of 1A. On the next page, for tax 8 through 9A, we added an electronic media type for both of those, 8 and 9. 10 and 10A was just reordering and updating the wording on the electronic, on the paper media type. And then we come down to tax 23, which is on page 13, 23 through 24A. We no longer have or use those types of documents, so we're just removing those. And page 14, tax 27 through 33A, so through to the end there, those are all being added to our retention schedule. They're all forms that we have that we couldn't find reference on here, so we added all of those. Some of it is the local board of tax review forms that we just revisited, so we got those on there. And that would be all the changes I have to highlight. Are there any questions?
I have no questions.
No.
No question.
I make a motion to approve the finance RC2 as explained by the finance director.
I'll second that.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes?
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Dillon,
Yes.
Mr. Bichette.
Yes.
Next, we have the item C, review and approval of the RC3 forms.
Yeah.
That was city manager forms?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is related to correspondence inter-office, attendance reports, records, payroll sheets, leave requests, city manager's journals. So these are ready for instruction. I've got nothing further unless there are any questions.
I make a motion to approve the RC3 for the city manager's office.
I second that.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Dillon,
Yes.
Mr. Bichette,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Next item is D, discussion regarding BZA and Planning Commission file retention.
Okay, so that one would be mine.
Files.
I don't even know where to start. So I guess about 20 years ago, because the clerk is the secretary for the boards and commissions, all the BZA files and all the planning commission case files were transferred to the clerk's office under her care. There's a list from one of the clerks listing cases stating they're all permanent files. They used to be permanent. Now they show a 25-year retention that was changed a few years back. In my office alone and at Montgomery County, our BZA and Planning Commission files dated back to the 1950s. So they have never been destroyed, it doesn't look like. Since I've been here, I've not been given any planning or building and zoning files, so then this information has not been passed along to newer staff that I'm even supposed to be keeping the files as a clerk. I guess my question is, other than meeting packets and agendas and all that stuff, a clerk generally does not keep files that belong to a division. And I do not feel like I have enough experience to know what files should not be destroyed, what should be kept, what's historical, what isn't when it comes to building and zoning. I am asking that these files get put back to the planning, under community development, under the planning division of the building and zoning, somebody, because it just seems weird to me that I am the keeper of planning commission files. You know, I have the packets, so I already have everything that's been put through the meetings. So I have all copies of all of that, and I have all the minutes. So to have double the amount of files doesn't seem right either. And then I don't know how to go about destroying. I mean, if I get to destroy based on 25 years retention, I have 50 years of files to just destroy, get rid of. So I'm looking for some guidance here. Is there a way to take this off of the clerk as far as keeping the files in another place? I mean, I would be more than happy to help destroy these, go down to Montgomery County, see what is all there, but I don't.
We do have a current RC2 for BZA and Planning Commission, right?
Correct, and it says that they belong to the clerk.
No, what I'm thinking about is, I mean, obviously, I think the majority of them are probably timed out and can be destroyed, but I just wanted to make sure we do have a valid current RC2 for both BZA and PC. I was remembering that we did, but I
Yeah,
just
we
wanna
have
make
one for
sure we
every
did.
board and commission now.
So basically, it sounds like what we need to do is start reviewing the files. I assume this is where you were going with this. Start reviewing the files for destruction pursuant to the RC2s for the BZA and PC, right?
To begin with,
Yeah.
yeah. Then second, I would like them not to be a clerk item. I would like to put them back with planning and,
With community development.
yeah.
So would that take, I don't have those two RC2s in front of me. Will we need to revise the RC2 to
The RC2,
reflect that? Is
yeah.
that part of the request, I guess?
So the RC2 for community development would have to be revised, which they're in the process of doing that anyway. Then I would just have to redo the RC2 for, you're coming up for the next time, for the next meeting, for BZA and the Planning Commission, which is just takes you 2 items off each of the forms.
When did it go from community development to the clerk's office again?
It looks
Yeah.
like about 2004. But Beth seems to remember it. She said at one point they just gave all the files away because why would they have them if it was a planning commission or a board and commission thing? But there's a lot of paperwork, yeah, the applications, all that stuff that's in there. So she says they don't, I don't know if they need it, don't need it. I just don't know what to do with it. It's just an odd item for a clerk to have, for me.
So I assume we're talking about boxes of documents if we're talking
Well, it's
about.
file cabinets right now.
Okay,
And then
yeah.
boxes and boxes, and then there are boxes that we've been paying storage on down at Montgomery County,
So
probably
are
for
you
years.
thinking the best thing to do would be to revise the RC2s for BCA and PC to reflect that those are community development records, and then physically transfer them back to that department, or?
Or we could go, if you guys feel comfortable with 25 years and out, if you feel comfortable with me destroying 50 years' worth of files, then I have no trouble doing the destruction on them under my RC, and then later moving them back over. But like I said, there are none that have come into that office since 2013 and 2018 that I can see.
So on the BZA and the PC RC2s, you have that category that says an RC3 is required. And if that's checked by the state, then we have to have an RC3. Is there anything on?
No, I don't think it says RC3 is required, because it says 25 years. They approved the RC2 that said that they can be destroyed in 25 years.
Okay, but it doesn't have a category, like, I can't see that, I don't have that those RC2s in front of me. So I don't know when they were approved. Because the 23, okay. So is there a category on those RC2s? Because, for example, the one I'm looking at for the finance department that we just approved, there's a category that says RC3 required, and if the state checks that an RC3 is required, then you have to get an RC3 approved before you destroy it.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that
Well,
if
I
we,
put RC3 together anyway. I mean, we don't destroy any files that we don't put on RC3.
okay, so that's what
They
I
don't have
want
to
to
be
make sure of.
approved, as long as the RC2 is approved. Does that make sense? Unless the RC2 says that an RC required. If
Then
it's
you
not
can go ahead and
required, then
destroy
we
it
can go
without
ahead and
the
do it.
RC3.
But they would still be put on RC3 just for
Just
purposes.
for internal records, right. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask whether or not on the current BZA RC2 and the current PC RC2, do any of those have an indication, a box check that an RC3 is required? In other words, that it has to be sent to the state before we
Correct, I know
destroy
what
it?
that, yeah, I said I don't, I would have to look at it. I don't,
Okay.
I don't remember it saying it was required.
Okay, I thought you had this
Because,
in front of you.
no,
Okay.
no, because it went from permanent to 25 years. So they approved the 25-year retention period.
When you get done too, I think Kim wanted to comment on this.
Well, actually,
I
yeah, I
mean-
was going to,
I remember when all this happened, I think that some of the departments, because it was all separated, Parks and Rec did their own, BZA did their own, Planning Commission did their own, and it was decided that the clerk was the overall person for all documents, everything within the city. So then Elaine Allison made the decision that all the boards and commissions go to the clerk. I don't know if this was a resolution or not. I don't know if it's in writing or not, but I remember that everything was brought back, and there were a lot of empty years. Planning Commission, BZA had empty years, Parks and Rec had empty years, and that's why they collectively put them all on the clerk.
you mean empty years because there were no meetings or cases, or that just nothing was kept?
There was nothing kept as far as minutes or anything like that. It was just nothing.
And in
So-
regards, Karen, to what we're currently discussing, has there been conversation with Kim and Beth? Like, are they aware that this is a topic right now?
Yeah,
asking
I
the
stopped,
commission
I
to
stopped in and
consider?
talked to Beth earlier. She just said that they dumped all the files on the clerk years ago because they didn't feel like they should be keeping them since they were case files. So anything else that goes through zoning and planning, they keep. But apparently anything that goes through a public hearing, they've been giving to the clerk, or gave all the clerk those files a long time ago. You know.
But
like-
your recommendation today, are they, well, Kim's here now, but is Beth aware of that as well, of the request to have it go all back to community development?
I told her that I was trying to find a home for them because I didn't feel like the clerk should have those. I don't know if if they don't want to keep them, or if we want to make them all electronic. She had talked about that. Maybe she and Sandy could start scanning them and make them electronic if they ended up needing, to keep them. If the files need to be kept, but we need to destroy them, she talked about that. I don't think she's thrilled. I don't think anybody's thrilled with the idea of bringing files back to their area. But if I'm going to be keeper of them, then I'm going to have to find a place and a home for them. You know what? But it doesn't make sense, like I said, if somebody needs to, if somebody calls up and says, "Hey, I want to see the file on this case," so is our zoning administrator supposed to come into my office and get the files, or is he supposed to go downtown to get the files, or should they not have them where they can get to them? I guess that's my question. Does that make sense?
Do we happen to know how this is being handled in other jurisdictions?
I know that, I mean, as a clerk where I've been, we did not keep anybody's files but our own. You know, clerk files are generally council meetings. Most places I know have the staff liaisons for boards and commissions, so the clerk doesn't even do those meetings. But if the clerk does do the meetings, and they just keep the packets, the meeting minutes, things of that nature. They don't generally, like I said, keep case files. You know, in that frame of mind, if that were the case with Merit System Commission, I'd be keeping personnel files and things of that nature. With Tree Board, I'd be keeping the Tree City USA files. If you want to break it down to different types of meetings, it's just odd.
Kim, what did you say drove the decision? It was just because it seemed like there were files that were never created?
And there are missing years. And it was with.
Can you talk into the microphone, please?
My bad. It was all the different boards and commissions, because they were all handed out, the ones that were specific. So like Parks and Rec, you know, first of all, their minutes wasn't correct, and they were doing the actual meetings incorrect. And then BZA and planning commissions, sometimes they didn't have any minutes whatsoever, nothing in the file, or they had the packet for the file, but no minutes. There were just pieces and parts that were missing, and Elaine got frustrated, and she's like, the clerk's gonna do all of them.
So, because I remember a time when the staff liaison actually did the meeting and not the clerk. Was that the same time the clerk started doing all the meetings?
Correct, correct.
So it was kind of if the clerk's now doing all the meetings, then the clerk will store all the files.
Correct. And I don't know anything about the case files and stuff like that, because I know community development has a lot of files and stuff like that that they're, you know, required to keep. So I don't know what exactly goes into a file for planning or.
I mean, do we almost have duplicate files in a way?
I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I could speak on that. I just remember the conversation with Elaine, and I don't know if there was resolutions or anything like that attached to it. But I do remember that she was upset because the files were incomplete, and some of them didn't even exist, and years were missing, and she just said
So it kind of just fell in line with the assignment of the clerk then taking on
everything, yeah.
meetings instead of the staff liaison.
Correct. So I think for a while Beth did the planning and the BZA, and then sometimes when she was out, Carol would do them. And I think it was the same with Parks and Rec. Pam would do them, or whoever was going to the meeting would do them. But problem was the record keeping. And since the clerk was responsible for all the records in the city, she was the main, or he was the main holder of all of them. It was determined that it would be in the best interest if they kept them. I don't know how it is right now, because that was years and years ago, but that was the consensus back then.
Martina, do you have any thought on Karen's, if it's over 25 years old, just getting rid of,
Well, I'd like to see the RC2, because I feel like I'm not doing due diligence if I don't look at the RC2.
Would you like me to run and get it real quick?
Yeah,
Deliberate?
if you can get them, I'd really like to see the RC2s for those.
Example of boxes and boxes and boxes of those files in the office.
Definitely against it.
67?
Can't tell if that's an original signature or not. Because I believe
It looks like it
legislation,
is.
yeah, is
It
supposed
looks
to be
like it.
kept permanently. So somebody would need to go through these.
Everything.
Everything, yeah, you would need
Because
somebody to
anything
go
with an
through.
original signature would have to be regardless.
Well, if it's an ordinance or a resolution. I'd
Any
look
law.
at the RC2 to make sure, but I believe ordinances and resolutions are permanent. So we would need to look through, somebody would definitely have to look through all of these files to make sure we're not destroying something that is designated to be kept permanently. even though these, in some of these, I'd say it might be a good idea to scan, you know what I mean? So that even though we are legally able to destroy the written record, I would think at some point, how sometimes occasionally you'll get a question 30, 40 years down the road, and it's like, well, if we had records, we could, So I think it might be a good idea to scan these, just so you've got, in case a question comes up years down the road, which is not unheard of.
Kim, all these old files, I don't know what Tracy's been doing, everything else. Has she been scanning old BZA files? What has she been doing, Karen?
I think what she is doing, and I could be wrong, but this is what I was under the impression, at one time it was decided to put the attachments separately from the resolutions because the resolution books were getting so thick, so they moved them separate, and she's putting them back together.
Okay,
And I
so
think
she's probably not
she may
big.
be scanning them too, but she's putting them back
So
together.
probably nobody's delved into the files that are sold, 67 and all that.
Uh,
So probably
I,
haven't seen
I do not know. I'm sorry, I
No,
can't
that's okay.
speak to that.
Yes, she has.
it. Huh?
She's gone back that far. She's attached all the attachments to the legislation.
But not going through the. But she hasn't been going through the planning and the BZA stuff, just the resolutions and ordinances only.
Just council meetings, right? We'll-
Yes.
Not to the other stuff yet.
Sure, okay. What you're having Tracy do so far has not gotten into these.
Oh, no, she was just marrying attachments to legislation. That's separate.
Council meeting only, okay.
Yeah, so, that was just, because all the legislation got separated, all the attachments. And we remarried everything to books, so that they adjacent.
No,
Concerned about-
that would be, for use by the auditor of state, that would be right here. So, but we would do an RC3 anyway, according to Karen, just to make a record of what has been destroyed. So, I guess my thinking is, Annetta can look at those. I guess my thinking would be to start with the oldest ones.
How far back, 19?
I would probably start with the oldest, and you need somebody to review those. Because, for example, that one file you just handed us, there's an ordinance in there that looks like it's an original signature. If I remember correctly, I think the RC2 for ordinances and resolutions says those are to be kept permanently. So if somebody were to just wholesale destroy that file, they'd be destroying a record that's required to be kept permanently, or at least one, because of that ordinance. I can tell it looks like an original signature, but I'm not sure. So I guess my thinking, as we sit here today, having now looked at the RC2 for the BZA and the PC, is to start with the oldest records, and you're just going to have somebody go through those files so they can determine what can be destroyed and what needs to be set aside. Like I would pull that ordinance out and keep it.
See, this is not a signed ordinance, it says it's certified as a copy. That's the certification.
Okay, if there's a copy, but I would still want somebody to look through it. I wouldn't just want somebody to just, destroy
Yeah.
it without looking through it to see if it contains something, because
Yeah.
there could be something in there that is
See, that's-
required to be kept.
And that's what I'm afraid to do with 50 years' worth of files. We're
And
talking
so-
boxes and boxes and boxes of files.
I mean, I don't mind doing it. It's going to be time consuming, I mean, for anybody. But we need to figure out, number one, who the person is that should be looking through these files to make sure that a record that is required to be kept isn't accidentally destroyed. I would start with the oldest first. And I would also, once they've been reviewed, then I would hand them off to a second person to scan them. Because I think you were out of the office when we were talking. Even though you may not be required to keep a scanned copy, since those deal with real property issues, I've seen issues come up 20, 30, 40 years down the line where you're researching to go back and try and find the old records to address this current issue. So having an electronic copy may help in those events, which are rare, but they do happen. So I guess my recommendation would be start with the older records, determine who's going to look through those older records to decide what gets destroyed, what doesn't, and once that person is done with the file, then they hand it on to the next person to scan it. And then I would say, at that point, we're going to do an RC3. Well, I would say we do piecemeal RC3s, like maybe start with the year 1950. And if somebody has a better idea, let me know. You go through all the 1950 records, then 51, 52, and just keep going up. And yes, it's going to be extremely time-consuming, but it has to be done. Otherwise, the city's going to be storing those records forever, which makes no sense. That's my thought. Somebody else has,
Which most of them that are that old are at the county.
Pardon me?
Most of them that are that old are at the county, so we've got to grab boxes, bring them back. Is that?
I have not been down there to see. I'm assuming some of the gaps that I have are there, because I do have one box of BZA files that were at the county, that were sitting on top of the file cabinets that were brought back. But then Montgomery County says that they don't have BZA files, but I don't know if they know what they have in those boxes. So that's my next move, is to go down there to review what all we've been paying storage on.
that sounds like the first step, is to send somebody down there and get a list of what's down there.
Yeah,
So we
and she
and
sent
then
me a
bring it back.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then bring it back to the Records Commission, and then we can, at that point, look and say, okay, now that we've seen the list, we think this is probably the best way to address this. So I would probably start with getting a list.
Okay.
And then whenever you get the list, we can obviously reschedule a Records Commission meeting. We don't have to wait the 6 months that the ORC says. We can schedule a Records Commission meeting to look at the list and then decide how best to move forward at that point. If the way I described sounds like the best way, then that's fine. If after looking at that list, we say, no, this is probably the better way to do it, then we change our mind and go forward with whatever way makes sense, I would say.
Kim, have you ever been there? No?
Yeah. Well, I was supposed to go a couple months ago, but, anyway, so, Tina, I was supposed to go with Nick also. We were going to go down and see what files they had of his. We already know what finance files are down there. They've already sent us a couple lists back from that. So I want to go down and take a physical inventory just to make sure they know what they have. And there are things that are down there that aren't even on the shelf, that I don't even think that we're getting charged for. There's something about, if it's on the shelf, you get charged for it. If it's not, you don't. So I need to go look at that and see what else is down there. And probably today or tomorrow, if she's not on vacation, because I want to resolve this also.
Once we physically know what we have, maybe we could then work with the new person in community development and someone hired at the front desk. Maybe they assist with some of this. You feel that's an appropriate task to help out with?
I can't speak for community development's lady, but certainly, because we're going to get a capable person to be able to do other stuff at the front desk, I don't see why she couldn't, or he
Do they have the
couldn't.
capabilities at the front desk to do the scanning and all that?
Yes.
Not for the big,
There's a piece of equipment.
They
Not for the
can't do the
large
legal
pieces.
size, but they can do letter size at the front desk.
but we have a lot of plans, a lot of those type of large size that I'm still waiting to have scanned just for legislation that didn't get scanned the first time around back in the day. I think they just got the scanner fixed, I think, last week or something.
Is that the one in community
Yeah.
development? Big maps?
Yeah, so it's gonna take somebody who does that, and that's what Beth said. If it turns out that we need to scan these and keep them electronically, then definitely the new person we hired could help out.
So I guess take inventory is the first piece.
Take inventory, then go have somebody start reviewing the files, I guess.
Do we need a meeting before we do that?
I would have a meeting before that so we can look at the list and see if we change our mind on how to approach it after looking at the list.
Okay. Well, towards the end of the meeting, I was going to ask to have another one next month anyway, if that was okay with everybody, because there's also more interest in trying to get their RC2s and RC3s going. That didn't make the cutoff date this time, so I could foresee actually having 2 more meetings at least this year, just to work out some things that we're behind in.
Is there anything else under D? We have some
So we'll come back to another meeting and then decide whether we can do another RC2 then at that point, once we decide who's to be the keeper. Okay. So no, I think that's all I have under D.
All right, under E, we have certified public records training, sunshine law training.
Yeah, so in going through reviewing all these RC2s with staff and then them asking questions, it turns out that a lot of staff they're not familiar with really what the whole system is supposed to be or how it's supposed to be done. Kim had sent around an email from MVCC about records training, and Deputy Chief Guadagno jumped right on it. He went through a sunshine training and did all the public records training and did all the tests. One of our admins did the same thing. I would like to see if it's possible to make it mandatory for anyone here, just like the other trainings that we do through HR, or if an employee has anything to do with any of the records, that they should take the training just to get up to date with it. And I don't know if that's something that we can require or not, but it seemed to help.
All employees are those that have their hands on and deal with the files.
I think any admin person, for one. Of course, Deputy Chief did it, anybody at fire who has records. I'm sure you and Alexa may have already done it. I don't know. I don't think it's anything that could hurt to do every couple of years, especially with all the electronic records training and stuff that goes on. So I don't know if it's any different than the harassment training and the other training and drug awareness training, if it would hurt to include this as a requirement, but I'm asking to see.
The MVCC training, or MVTCG, was it like an online do from your desk type training, Kim?
I
Yeah.
think it's a live interactive thing with the Attorney General. I believe I also sent that email to Martina some time back, and they had a list of dates, and I signed up for it, and Beth signed up for it. I don't know if any other staff member that has signed up for it, but
Do they then keep a recording of it to be able to watch?
I do not, I think it's all live. I'm not for sure because it said that there were no taped recordings that'll be after it.
You can go online on the auditor site, state auditor site at any time and take the training too, because that's what I have to do every time we have a new council member. I have to take the new training over and over. So that one you can just go get on anytime you want to.
Was it the same training?
They're very similar because, one's the Attorney General, one's the Auditor of State. So it all has the same information. Some of them have testing quizzes, one of them does not. So it helps you, makes you pass a quiz. So either one of them are fine. I think the Attorney General one may have dates. And I don't know if they're actually interactive or not. They used to have places you could go take it. But they're doing away with that so much anymore. But yeah, but the Attorney General, I just get on site and or not the Attorney General, State Auditor, and I just plug in and go. You just got to create an account. And you can revisit it anytime.
My date is August 4th, so I can let you know after the August 4th training.
I mean, this sounds like it's just an administrative item that I would tackle and that we would send out and ask people to take.
And I don't know if it's just on records retention. I don't know if it's how to do this, step-by-step type thing until I actually go through it. And I think it's 4 hours or something like that, 4 or 5 hours training, so.
Well, why don't we'll get together after August 4th and maybe with Karen and talk and see what we think we can maybe get out to the other folks that are heavily involved in the record retention piece.
Well, if you remember when I was substituting in before Karen came, I did find where places were doing the training sessions and stuff like that. So maybe I need to revisit that and see what that looks like before, we decide on one place. And I think that was with the Attorney General office also. I believe. Because we were having so much problems on this and that and the other, and what about this and what about that? So I think we had mentioned having staff go through training then.
That's just something that can come through my office, Karen, I think.
Okay.
We'll know more once Kim goes through it on the 4th, right?
As a mandatory training or just as a suggested or?
No, I think it'd be something that we would push out and expect the employees that deal with records retention and keeping their files to take
Okay.
and prove that they've, again, if it's an online, interactive, whatever it may be, we'll make that determination soon. Was there anything else under E?
No, that's it.
Okay. Next, we have other business. We've got future topics for discussion, standardized public request forms throughout the organization, public record request software, and division public records officers.
Yeah, just going to look forward. So with the public request forms that we have probably 7 to 8 different versions for HIPAA request forms in our files, a couple on the website, here, there, and everywhere. I was talking to Arian the other day because the one that he had posted is not the one that the chief is receiving. So we talked about doing we're going to have to take all the forms basically that are out there on the website, do an ADA compliant one that we can fill on the website, but then also if we have one that prints out, it's the exact same information. So we were going to be talking about that here in the future. That's one thing we're looking at. Public records request software, just to make everything more uniform as far as public requests going out with citations, with, we received your request, we're doing this, we're doing that, instead of creating a letter every time. There's software out there aligned with Civic Plus, and Aaron and I have been talking about looking into that to purchase later down the road to see so anything that comes in is just funneling through one thing. It keeps record dates. We're not relying on ourselves to keep the correct date and this, that, and the other. It just puts it in the system. You start creating it from there. You send it out. You upload the files. Then you send it back out to somebody. It's a much more streamlined way of doing things. And when I went to the conference last month, I talked to several vendors that all can align with Civic Plus. So I just wanted to talk about that later once we get some more answers and bring that forth.
Does that software do automatic replies or responses? 'Cause
It can.
well, I'm not sure if we'd be big on that without Martina being.
No, it'd be an automatic response saying, we received your
And
thing. That's it. Everything else would be funneled through me or police, or I don't know if community development does that much anymore as far as the public records request, because I've been doing most of them with planning, with zoning, and with Lauren, because I think Beth has just been so most things aren't going through her. But anybody could get into it. But as far as being the clerk, if I am over all the records request, it's probably best that those kind of things funnel through me and this over here, not through police, obviously, but through the other departments. But anyway, so we're just looking into, I've worked with several of the systems before, so they're fantastic. And it's just everybody gets the same type of answer, the same type of response. It's more uniform. And you're not just, winging it. Hey, here's your stuff. Hey, here's that, So that's something I want to talk about later when we have a chance to go through it. And that's the other thing I wanted to ask about, Martina. We started last year changing the bylaws and such, and when we kind of just dropped off because our last meeting was in August.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
So I don't know if you want to start working on that again or
My
not.
fall got bamboozled, so I
Yeah.
was going to mention that at the end of this meeting, that
Okay.
I will have a complete revised version before the next meeting. If
Oh, a
we
complete
meet
revised?
Yeah, if we meet next month, I'll send that out before. Because
Okay.
I did see that needed to be done.
Is there any other business?
Just to set maybe a date? Can we set a date now, or do you need to look at your calendars later and get back?
I would need to look at my,
No calendars,
I
okay,
would- I would think so too, or
okay.
Yes.
Pardon?
Oh, nothing. I
Oh.
just didn't know if there was
No, that's all I have.
anything from the commission.
No.
No, nothing.
Okay. We will adjourn this meeting at 10:49.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.